Hi everyone, this is Sara Quill. I wanted to thank you so much for checking out the third episode of Therapy is a Drag. In this episode, I interviewed a coworker and we talked about our experiences with group therapy, individual therapy, as well as we learned a little bit about the emotion wheel. It was a really fun episode to film, and I had a lot of fun getting to know my coworker a little bit more and learn a little bit about their experience with therapy. If you guys are interested in being a guest on Therapy is a Drag, there's a Google form link in my Instagram bio as well as my TikTok bio and right down in the description below. Without further ado, let's jump into episode 3. Well, Schae, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. I know that we had to reschedule like twice, but I've
Yeah,
been
sorry.
anxiously awaiting this one because you were like one of the first people, aside from Micah, who responded, and I was so excited that people were actually interested in,
Well, I thought it
doing
was
it.
such a fun idea,
I'm
like doing
so
drag and talking about therapy. And I was in therapy for a long time,
good.
so
Me too, me too. And you're the first person aside from my sister who got dolled up, and I really appreciate it. It makes me feel like this is a real thing. So I'm super
I
stoked.
will take any advantage to put on so much makeup.
Hell yeah.
I'm wearing
Uh,
like 3 cheerleaders.
I'm wearing a shitty shirt from Spencer's that I cut up that says, I don't know if you can see it. It says that bitch on it. Um, well, thank you so much for being here.
Mhm.
I'm so excited that you agreed to do this, and I'm so excited that you were excited to talk about therapy because I feel like not a lot of people are. Just a reminder, anything that you disclose during this interview will be on the internet forever, so
Mhm.
don't share anything that you're not comfortable having everyone about forever. Um,
Yes.
and I won't ask too many crazy questions, so don't worry about
Okay.
it. I know that I said your name once or twice already, but if you want to say your name, your pronouns, and then any other identifiers about yourself that you want the audience to know.
I'm Schae. My pronouns are she, her. I draw and I paint and I love horses. I have
Oh,
a horse bangle in my horse necklace as
oh my
proof.
god, that's so
Thank
cool.
you.
Awesome. I didn't know that you were an artist.
Yeah,
I'll
I
have
draw a
to.
lot of D&D characters. That's
Oh
like my main.
hell yeah.
I do a lot of fantasy stuff.
That's super sick. What is your current D&D character, if you don't mind me asking?
Her name is Mary Meadow Jane.
Love
She
it.
is a ranger monk multi-class, and she has a
Nice.
horse named Meadow that's a war horse, so he also kicks people.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. I haven't done a D&D campaign in a very long time, but I really want to start a new one. But it takes a lot.
it it's a lot of work.
It really is. I
It's
know.
mostly just trying to get like 5 or 6 people's schedules to match up once a week. That's
I
like the
know.
only hurdle.
I know. And every time it does match up, it's usually like, I can't do it in person. Can we do roll 20 or something? And I'm like,
And it's never as good if it's online. It's
no,
always
it's
so much better
not.
in person.
I agree. I agree. Well, let's get into the therapy questions.
Hey,
Um, are you currently in therapy?
I am not.
Ooh, do tell.
A little bit controversial. So, I guess the last time spoke I spoke to a therapist was about a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
Um, just wasn't really vibing with her.
For
And
sure.
I felt really sufficient on my own. Like every time
Yeah.
I would go to her, I didn't have a lot to talk about.
Hmm.
So I just ghosted her a little bit. That wasn't the greatest thing to do. I didn't really know how else to stop talking to her.
Yeah, yeah. I've been there. Where
Yeah.
you come in and you're like, you kind of just dump for like 30 minutes, and then you're like, okay, what do I do with the next 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt pretty sufficient with my coping mechanisms,
Good.
and I journal a lot. I journal
Nice.
almost every day, and I think that really regulates me. It really helps me process my
For
emotions.
sure. I love that. Yeah. I'm an intermittent journaler. Like
Mhm.
there'll be like 3 weeks where I do it really consistently, and then there's like a 2 month gap in my journal.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's awesome.
that's fine as long as you're still doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. Um, so with that, how long were you with your most recent therapist?
I was with her for maybe a year, and that's
Mm.
because I did a lot of group therapy.
Oh, okay.
I preferred group therapy. I
Hmm.
felt it helped me feel less alone, and I felt like I
Oh,
could
yeah,
talk about how I was feeling from different perspectives.
for sure. I love that. I think that I've never done group therapy myself, but I did go to AA for a full year, like early in my sobriety, and I agree. Like having that group with people that are like in similar situations or like-minded was really beneficial to like give me that push. So, um, I I did do group therapy in rehab. I lied. I forgot about that. Kind of blocked it out of my memory. But that's super cool. I really haven't had any like friends or family that have done groups, so it's nice that you have that extra
Mhm.
perspective.
And also have like a side therapist with group
For
therapy. It's
sure.
nice to talk about it with other people, but you have to have
Yeah,
a therapist with it.
definitely.
Usually I would go to a program that had a group therapy and then you would meet with an individual therapist
Yeah,
as well. It was like the group leader or whatever.
yeah.
That's mostly what I did.
Yeah, that's pretty
Mhm.
similar to what I did when I was in rehab too. It was a interesting dynamic having individual therapy and group therapy with the same person, but I
Yeah.
I liked it, and it seems like that was something that you enjoyed too. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, did you like your most recent therapist that you were doing individual with? I know that you said you kind of ghosted her, but that doesn't always mean that you had a
I
bad experience.
I didn't really have a bad experience. I just didn't feel like we clicked very
Oh yeah.
well. And at that point, I didn't know how to get out,
Yeah.
essentially.
I, that's such a good way to put it. But I think that that brings up like a really good point is that sometimes, at least for me, I felt like I didn't want to break up with my therapist because for some reason I felt like they needed me as much as I needed
Yeah,
them. And I
yeah.
was like, damn it, what am I doing? Well, that was crazy. Is that a Teletubby on your wall?
Yes,
That's
it
so sick.
it says a bad word. Do you wanna see?
Yeah, I would love to see the bad word Teletubby.
So this is I think it's the 1990s discontinued Teletubby, and it was
Oh
discontinued
my
because it
god.
says the F slur.
No way.
Yeah, wait, it has to go through a cycle. Hang on.
Oh my god. That's
Yeah,
fucking insane. Where do
yeah.
I get one?
This is exclusive, baby.
Super sick. Um okay, so you just didn't click. I think that's
Yeah,
like a common theme with people that um kind of, I wouldn't say break up, but like even when you graduate from therapy, I feel like sometimes you leave on like a weird note because I with
yeah,
my sister, she was saying that like along with developing the coping mechanisms, she was just kind of like ready to move on. And I've been in that situation too where it's like I might have still needed some extra help, but I was at the point where I was like, maybe I just need a new therapist. Maybe I need to shake
yeah,
things up.
yeah. Also, like, I had been in therapy for so long,
Mhm.
and, like, my medication was working, and what I
Mhm.
was doing at home was working, and every time I went
Mhm.
into therapy, I was, like, kind of dreading it because I was like, "Well, now I have to think about stuff to talk about."
Yeah.
When everything is, like, pretty fine.
Mhm. Yeah, you kind of have to dig deep, and a lot of the
Mhm.
times when you're in like a good spot, you really don't want to dig deep because you don't want to like
You
bring
don't wanna, like
anything up,
no.
like, and I feel like it's not like you're hiding from whatever there is. It's just like maybe you've processed it with another therapist and you don't really want to
Mhm.
get into it again. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that that is something that I've experienced too. Um, were there any aspects of your most recent therapist or any therapist that you've had that you particularly appreciated or just really liked or admired about them?
I had a therapist that would allow me to just draw and talk, and I didn't have to make any eye contact at all. And it was
Hmm.
really nice because I felt like I was really focused on one thing and I didn't have to look at the person that I was telling like
Hmm.
these like low key traumatic events
For
to.
sure.
And I
Yeah.
didn't really want to like see their reaction to it.
Yeah.
So for me, drawing while talking to someone about it just like
Mm.
really helped.
That's super cool.
Hmm.
I always love. I've never had a therapist that does it, but like the walk and talk idea, or
Yeah.
like I feel like even I had a therapist like ask like, "Do you want to just go get coffee?" And I did that, and it was just a super interesting experience, mostly
Mhm.
because it just felt like I was with a friend. And when I had that relationship with them, it was a lot easier for me to open up. So
Yeah.
having, the drawing or something that you can be occupied while doing, I mean, for you and for me, it made a big difference. So I think
Yeah.
that's super awesome. Um, it's it's always something that like as a future therapist, I'm like making mental notes of what everyone's saying during this part. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I got to make sure that I let people draw now. So, well, that's super cool. Um, is there any specific modality that you've done with any past therapists that have stood out to you or that you really liked?
I feel like everyone kind of hates it, but I really like the emotion wheel.
Oh, okay.
I love it. I think it really helps me identify how I'm feeling in a
Hmm.
moment because for most of the time, I don't even know like what basic emotion I'm feeling
Hmm.
over like a complicated one. So
Yeah.
it's nice to kind of like break down and like kind of look at why I feel that way.
Hmm.
And it's nice to do it in like big chunks.
Definitely. Um, for people that might not know what the emotion wheel is, do you think you could give like just a brief overview?
Yeah. So the emotion wheel is what it sounds like. It's a wheel that
Yeah.
has different emotions on it. And it starts from basic ones like sad, happy, angry, like other ones. And then
Hmm.
it'll break it down from like angry to like annoyed and then
Hmm.
annoyed to like it'll just keep breaking it down into simpler and simpler
Yeah.
kind of emotions, like getting more direct and detailed on
Hmm.
why you feel that way or why
Yeah.
you feel angry. And
Yeah.
I think it really helped me figure out how I was feeling for
Hmm.
a lot of, especially my teen years.
Yeah. The angsty years.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of it like connecting the dots, where it's like you start from one
Hmm.
point and then you keep going like line after line until you have the full picture. And I think that
Yeah.
for like I'm so glad that someone else enjoyed that because I loved the wheel of
Yeah.
emotions because it really did help when I was younger and even as an adult because I feel like we can get stuck in just like the very simple or very
Hmm.
basic or raw emotion and having the ability to break it down deeper like you were saying kind of helps you pinpoint why you're feeling that way, so that's
Hmm.
super cool. um, are there anything or any like aspects or attributes that you didn't like about your most recent therapist or any of the more recent therapists?
Um, I really, this isn't like their fault, but I didn't really like male therapists at all. And it's not their fault just because they didn't understand why I felt some ways because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like a woman.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard for me to tell someone why I feel that way. And then I also have to explain on top of it why
Yeah.
I feel that way. And I just want to be able to say I feel that way and for someone to be like, oh, yeah, that sucks. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always prefer to have a female therapist,
Yeah,
just in general.
for sure. I think that like therapist matching is super important. And
Yeah.
I've said it in another episode, but like 40% of the therapy outcome is attributed to the relationship that you have with your therapist.
Hmm.
So if you're having to like explain yourself over and over again, I feel like you get pretty drained after a while, where it's like
Yeah.
it's it's difficult. But I'm sorry that you've had that experience, but I'm glad that you know what you like and what you need out of a
Yeah.
therapist. Yeah, it's good.
Like at
Um,
least I know now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You know what works for you, and that's really
Mhm.
important. Um, the juiciest question: do you have any therapy horror stories?
Horror stories. Hmm. Yeah, I do have one. It's so one time I called the suicide hotline,
Hmm.
and the lady that picked up, I had told her what was going on, and she was like, "Well, that's simple. All you need to do is accept Jesus into your heart." And like, I was like 13,
What the
and
fuck?
and at the time I wasn't really into religion. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm Catholic now, but at the time I was like, that was just like the worst thing to say to me. And I ended
Oh
up
yeah.
hanging up and then just calling back because I was like,
Oh yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah. That's crazy. Um.
Also, one time in group therapy, we made an Instagram page for our group therapist and we called him Rat. And we posted Photoshop photos of his face over rats. And it was private, so only we could see
Oh
it.
my god, that's so funny.
Yeah, that's not really a horror story. That's just an anecdote I thought
No,
of.
I love that.
Yeah.
The yeah, that suicide hotline thing is crazy.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have a script. Like she was just
Do they?
freeballing.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah, they have a script that they're supposed to follow like at like when they first answer. So that is wild, and I
Mm.
think that might be why some people discourage others from using like the 988 number and offer like the alternative resources now.
Yeah.
Because when I was first putting like this idea together, I asked one of my professors, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put the 988 line," and she's just stopped me. I was like, "Don't do it." And I was like, "Oh." And then she was like, "Well, do it, but put better ones." So I had to,
Yeah.
I had to dig a little bit. But luckily, the Trevor Project I already knew about, and that's the other one I include. Um, and now that we've talked about the good, the bad, I like to end with asking everyone if there's one thing or one piece of advice that you could offer to the audience about therapy. Like, let's say someone's on the fence on whether or not they want to seek treatment or seek help. What would you tell them to either encourage them, inspire them, or offer, some hope for them?
I would say hmm, therapy doesn't have to look like just like sitting in a room and talking to someone. There are
Hmm.
many ways that you could go about looking for therapy. You could just do therapy yourself at home.
Yeah.
It's if therapy seems really scary to you, if talking to someone is really scary to you, just start with writing it down. Start with just thinking about it a little bit harder on your own. You don't have to immediately go in and do like this scary thing about talking to someone. You can start small.
Yeah. I love that. That's so awesome. Yeah. I it's it's so daunting at first, and I think that that is incredible advice for anyone that might not know what therapy really is. And I think that we do little micro therapies with ourselves every single day. So
Mhm.
breaking it down like that, I think really puts everything into perspective. Um, and then I know I asked you about Drag Race at work, but do you have a favorite drag queen?
I'm so basic. I love Trixie Mattel, mostly
Nothing
because
wrong
she
with it.
interacts with Brittany Broski the most, and I love that one.
That's so true. I love Trixie and Katya. That they were like the reason why I got into drag. Is I hadn't even watched Drag Race. I just watched their like and listened to their podcast, and it was
Let's
just I
watch.
thought it was so funny. They're great, and I think something that I really like about them is that they've really made drag so much more mainstream, and
Yeah.
like even if people don't know anything about drag, they know who Trixie and Katya are. Like,
Hmm.
and I like my parents know who Trixie and Katya are.
Yeah.
They couldn't even name any other drag queen. Maybe RuPaul if they're lucky.
I
um,
do miss Trixie's blue contacts. I know
I
that's
know.
controversial, but I think it looks so crazy, and I loved it.
There's like a contact epidemic in the early seasons of Drag Race. It's so funny.
Definitely,
It's just
definitely.
everyone has them, and they don't look good. They're bad colored
It's
contacts.
because 'cause they're the cheap ones you get when you look up colored
I
contacts on
the
Google. They're,
the
like, the first
Amazon
search result.
the Amazon choice
Yeah.
colored contact. I when I was younger, I was like, "Oh my god, I really want colored contacts." And then I went blind and now I have to wear real contacts and I'm like, "Fuck. I'm always going
Yeah.
to have brown eyes now."
I actually haven't been able to see you very well this entire interview because I don't have my
Oh my
glasses on.
god. Well, it's probably good because my lips look atrocious because I don't know how to line my lips.
It's okay. I just cover it up with gloss and hope for the
I
best.
tried to do that, and I kind of just look like a bad version of Shigo right now.
Oh, no, you look good.
Thank you. Yeah, it
I
was
don't
a
even have lashes
war.
on, so
My I I'm getting there. It's getting better as the makeup comes, and trying to find like the right combination of concealer, color corrector, and foundation to hide my beard. So
yeah.
hopefully, by episode 10, I'll get it. Well, do you have any questions for me about drag, about therapy, about the episode?
Um, what is your drag horror story?
My drag or my therapy
No,
horror?
sorry, your therapy horror
My
story.
drag horror story was 30 minutes ago. Uh, fighting the demons in the bathroom mirror. My therapy horror story. So before I even filmed the first episode or like the pretend episode that I did with Paige, I tried to interview myself in and out of drag and it went horribly and I'm never going to post it. And I did share my therapy horror story, but I'm glad you asked. So when I was 18, I was like couple months out of rehab, still dabbling in the things that I used to do, and I was meeting with an addiction therapist or an addiction counselor, and he was like a 60, maybe 70-year-old man who,
Those are always the perpetrators.
oh my god, yeah, the worst. And I think that his only qualifications were like, because I don't even think he was a therapist. I think he was
Oh,
like a self-help coach, and I've tried to look him up, and I don't think he exists. So it might have just been a fever dream. But um, I would come in once a week, and he was always late, so I'd be waiting at his front door at his office. And we'd sit down. He wouldn't ask me how I was doing. He'd just start yapping at me, and I would like get a chance to talk and I would talk about like, if I had relapsed or whatever, or like if anything was going on. He would end every single session by like minimizing my struggles as like a younger addict by
oh,
saying that like, you know, what you went through in that short amount of time was nothing. When I was in active addiction, I would drive from Santa Cruz to Monterey to get away from my wife, and I would go to the hot tamale and drink my ass off, and I'd black out and blah 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 blah. But the worst part is that he would specify that it wasn't the hot tamale spelled HOT, it was the hot tamale spelled HAUTE because apparently there's two in Monterey, and you got to make sure you go to the one spelled HAUTE. So
okay.
not only did he just like beat me down and tell me that my experience wasn't like worth being in addiction counseling, but he just like was so self-absorbed and like he was it was almost like he was bragging a little bit. He was like, "Yeah, I used to just leave my wife and go get fucked up." And I was like, "Dude, I mean, if anything, what I'm getting out of this session is that I don't want to end up like you." Well, I can't thank you enough for joining me. I know that doing 2 hours of makeup for 30 minutes of conversation kind of sucks, but I
It's
really appreciate your
okay.
commitment. And I'm so glad that I was able to have you on. And I don't know, I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did
I'm
too.
glad to be here. I also had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, with that, I bid you adieu. And again, thank you so much, Shay. It was a pleasure having you,
Of
and I'm so glad that
course.
you came on and spoke your truths and shared your experience.
I think it's always important to speak your truth.
Excellent. I love it.
Your truth.